I'll try and get through my questions as quickly as possible. You stated in your report that the population of Vancouver had doubled between 1986 and current.
Increased by 50%.
Oh, okay. Well, okay. I just wanted to verify that because it increased by 200,000 people, which is, it went from 430 roughly to 630,000. Just wanted to clarify that point.
So 50%.
Of the 1986 population.
Yes.
Also, the next concern that I have, I've been having my questions around the earthquake piece of this, because I am concerned that we're adopting approaches that are fine if you live on a fault or dealing with imminent earthquake threat, but I'm concerned about fear-mongering and and overblowing on this. And my concern in particular about that is that because of the sense of urgency, what that is going to impact financially on the city. And so when I'm looking, are you considering in your resilience also financial resilience? Because affordability is the biggest issue for people trying to stay living in Vancouver. And when I read through all of this, the implications of the cost of actualizing all this is enormous. Have you taken that into consideration in financially modeling the implications?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a really, really important point. There is no way that work towards seismic resilience is going to happen in the short term. And I don't think that we should only be thinking about, say, retrofitting every single building. That just isn't realistic. We need to incorporate this into a long-term strategy. Part of the work that we're doing right now, we have some consulting services helping us to look at financial resilience for the city, but the partnership with Natural Resources Canada and around disaster risk reduction also integrates financial options and opportunities into this work. So moving forward, financial considerations will be a primary focus of this work, and we will need to think about those to develop policy, because I absolutely agree with you. We can't develop a seismic policy that is going to make it impossible for people to live in the city. We also know that if and when an earthquake occurs, it will exponentially increase our affordability crisis. So we need to balance those two things, and I agree with you that we need to integrate that into our policy moving forward.
That's my single largest concern here, is that we're creating this great sense of urgency. We're going to get hit by the big one tomorrow, and that's going to force every building in the city to have to be retrofitted, and then going forward add a whole bunch of extra costs. And I was looking at the news this morning about what's going on in New York City in that very subject and the implications, and also places like in New Zealand where they have dealt with big earthquakes, and the implications on their building policies, for example, is limited the height of buildings to 4 stories. That would go over real well in Vancouver, I'm sure.
And we need to learn from all of those, and we need to really have a very robust community conversation that includes all of those issues.
And keeping on the financial aspect of this, my understanding is that the Resilient Cities 100 is funded through the Rockefeller Foundation. Is that correct?
Yes, the 100 Resilient Cities program was funded by the Rockefeller Foundation.
And that funded the first 2 years of your salary, and as outlined in the chart that we have here.
Yes.
And is the intent then that the funding that was received through the Rockefeller Foundation through Resilient Cities, RC 100, that 2 years has come to the end, and going forward these costs would be absorbed by the City of Vancouver?
So yes, that the partnership, the grant that we received was for 2 years of funding, and so our moving forward, this would be work that the city would take on. We have secured additional partnerships from other groups and organizations to help us move forward with this, but the city would need to make a contribution.
Okay, so that's key. So the expectation is that the city would start to foot the bill going forward on this.
Yes.
Thank you.